pay their bills, buy food, and this bitch has money streaming from like 10 different revenue streams and still has the audacity to ask for free shit.
Hey, I know it's late, but sitting around my room made me realize that you are completely right.
About what?
Well, I do need a place of my own, so I decided to take you up on your offer.
I got my hair cut today.
To check out your apartment.
I'm not,
Alex,
it looks really short.
Yeah, but you said you were a night owl like I am, and you walked me home like an hour ago.
Like,
I just figured,
it looks really short.
oh my God.
I went and I got my hair cut today.
You know what?
Hey Kathleen, hey Violet, hey Patience, and it looks short.
I feel terrible.
nothing for you to feel terrible.
I'm a little annoyed with my hair. So it says that she wants restorative surgery. Whatever restorative surgery, thank you. Whatever restorative surgeries she's talking about, she wants restorative surgery. Whatever that she had done in the past that is still affecting her in the present.
I mean, if you want to.
Are you getting ready to cut mine? I feel like it's short. Maybe it's just the way it looks in the camera. I don't know. It could be just the way it looks in the camera. I mean, I asked her to only cut off like half an inch, but I know I did have quite a little bit of dead ends. So maybe she cut off a little more than that, not thinking that I would notice. I definitely noticed. Yeah, it definitely felt weird. But I've been wanting my hair to grow, and I've been trying so many different things to try to get it to grow. And the last thing that I figured I'd try is just like not cutting it. So I've only been cutting it like 4 times a year, and that's it. And maybe I should cut it even less than that. I've used like peppermint oil in my hair, rosemary oil in my hair. I've used like all these different things, and I still feel like it's not growing as much as I'd like for it to. So if you guys have any tips and tricks on how to get your hair to grow, please let me know. Yeah, I do get my hair done every 6 weeks. I just don't cut it. Biotin. I've never heard of that. What is Kristen hair oil? What is that? I'll look it up. So I'm not completely disappointed in it, but it's just a little different. That's all. It's just a little different. How was everyone's day? And hey, Rebecca, I've had some people saying that they really like book club and that they really like book club and that we should start a new book after we're done with this one. And I was thinking, since Michelle Mastrosani published this book, that maybe we should go back and read some of her other books, because I cannot think and fathom for the life of me that a #1 New York Times bestselling author would associate herself with the likes of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. So thank you. I have enjoyed this. This has been fun, hasn't it? It's been fun to like sit together as a group and just have a chat and talk about different things that are in the book. Hey, back to Bushwick. I know that this particular time, like, we're talking about Gypsy and she's kind of controversial. But it's cool to just have some time to spend together and talk about whatever that's going on in the book and how it relates to our personal life. Thank you for the likes, Kimberly. Make sure that you're hitting that like button. If you're not, it is disgusting. If you're not already following me, make sure that you hit that follow button and be sure to share. I want to try to get up to at least 10,000 likes on TikTok. So let's try to get there. Yes. Did they help, Violet? So you get it cut once a year and it grows pretty long aside from that, Rebecca? Pat, I think it's going to take someone in the mainstream to actually dig a little deeper into her medical records and see how everything that she had done is linked directly to the chromosome disorder, like Nancy Grace or that lady from News Weekly or whatever it was that did the interview with Christy. I can't remember if it was News Weekly or something like that. It's going to take one of those publications to look at the medical records, actually do the research. I mean, let's just keep it real. They're not fucking doing the research. They're just going by what this little gremlin has to say. I'm just going to steal Radiant Brit's little word because she is a little gremlin. If you don't follow Radiant Brit on YouTube, go follow her. She's funny and she calls Gypsy a little gremlin, and I absolutely love it when she calls her a little gremlin because I feel like that describes her perfectly. But if they just did the research, they would have all the information that they need to prove that she has been deceiving everyone. Like, it's not that hard. Hey, Ashka. Hey, Diane. Kathleen, I hope you love it short. My hair doesn't grow fast. So apparently there was a comment left on Gypsy's TikTok. She has me blocked so I can't see it. One of my friends screenshotted it, and I'm gonna just look at the screenshot really quick. So the screenshot is of the post that she said about how the book was a little graphic in nature, blah, blah, blah. And somebody wrote, "You want your daughter to read about you having sex?" And Gypsy wrote, "My daughter will be 18 when she reads this book, a grown woman. So thank you, ... next." It doesn't matter if Gypsy feels like her daughter, like she's going to allow her daughter to read this book whenever she turns 18. But if this book is in the house, her daughter is going to be curious about what is inside this book. As early as that child is able to read, she is going to be curious about what is in this book. You cannot keep information away from your children that you did when you make your shit public. Like, I would never go online and talk about things that I didn't want my children to know about me in public if I didn't want them to know about me. You know what I mean? Like, there are certain things. Yeah, kids are curious. Do you know how many times I walked into my mom's room and like opened a drawer and saw sex toys and, porn magazines? Like, yeah, kids are going to see whatever is in the house. Unless it is locked up somewhere, they're going to be able to see what it is. And and you're right. I like 18 to me is not a fully functioning adult. I feel like I didn't become an adult until I was like 30. So even at 18, I wouldn't hand this book to my child and be like, here, this is my life story. Read it. Like, I would not do that. And Kimber, quiet. And I think it's pretty naive of her to think that at 18 years old her daughter is going to be mentally, emotionally, and psychologically mature enough to read a book like this. Yeah, and again, exactly, Deanna, I would not want my child to read about my sex life or about their grandmother's neck cut open. Like, it's just, her naivety continues to surprise me, and her lack of foresight continues to surprise me. And I say it surprises me, but it doesn't. I'm not surprised, because the person that we're dealing with, she's a literal sociopath. Like, she's a sociopath. We all know she's a sociopath, and she is definitely not able to consider anyone else other than herself. She really should. This book should never have been published. It's a total fabrication and contradiction to literally everything that she said prior. Hey, Amelia. Hey, Soleil. Good. Yes, you brought it up. So somebody brought up that this book is written for the PDF files, and I 100% agree that it is written for PDF files, because why else would she be going into the type of detail that she goes into in this book? Thank you so much for hitting that like button. That really helps. That really helps kick it out into the algorithm and bring more people. I was also a little annoyed that I started the book club and then everyone else started doing it as well. So if you've heard other creators reading it, I really appreciate you coming back here. Hey, Pug Lady, I really appreciate you coming back here and hanging out with me and listening to me read it. Because I know there are a lot of other creators doing exactly the same thing. So I really appreciate that we're all here gathered together and that you showed up to support me while I'm reading it. And you definitely go support other creators too. I'm just thankful that you're here so we can all hang out together and read this fiction comedy book. I guess comedy / fiction. No. Talk time with Jay. I don't think that she's going to have this child until it's 18 years old. I don't. She's unfit as a parent now. Like, the things that she does online, and the reason why she's kind of taken a step back. Thank you, back to Bushwick. The reason why she's taken a step back from the internet is because she got in a little bit of trouble with some of the things that she was saying. And her parole officer was like, no, you can only use social media to promote your work or whatever. So, but when she's not on parole anymore, which is not that far away, it's in June. When she's not on parole anymore, she is going to be like all over social media in the worst ways possible. And that's when we're really going to be able to get to see who Gypsy is. If she does, hey Buffy, hey JJ, hey Sonia, hey Vicky, if she does in fact become a mommy vlogger like so many people have already predicted she's going to do, if she does become a mommy vlogger, um she's gonna have to post content of her daughter, her, and like the behind the scenes stuff. So we're gonna see a lot of things that we wouldn't necessarily see otherwise, and that's when moms all over are going to be in the comment section pointing every little detail out. And that's when CPS is going to get called. That's when the cops are going to get called. That's when all of these things are going to start falling in line to take her down and discredit her. Central Texas girl, I'm not sure I understand what your comment is supposed to mean. If the child has her condition, I don't think that she will either, because she will be ashamed of the child. And if that happens, I don't see Gypsy wanting to raise that child. I think that she's going to want to give it to somebody else to raise, because she doesn't have the patience for it. And she wants a child that she can display to the world like it's an accessory, something pretty to look at. You know what I'm saying? Something easy on the eyes. And if her daughter is not easy on the eyes, and exactly the perfect child, and if it comes with a lot of problems or issues, she's not going to want to associate herself with that child, and it's going to be really sad for her daughter. Sorry, I needed to grab my drink. I just got finished eating. I made BLTs tonight for everyone to eat. Both of my kids are at work, but I always make food so that whenever they get home they have something to eat. I don't think she's going to be genuinely raising the daughter either. I think Ken will probably, exactly, Taylor. I think Ken will probably take custody, and that will be a new season to the show. JJ, I'm 43. But thank you very much. I take pretty good care of myself. I love BLTs. I get I think it's Wrightsville bacon, and Applewood smoked bacon. It's really thick. I love that bacon. Thank you, Violet. Y'all are so sweet. Yes, it will give her more excuses to be the victim if her child isn't perfect. And then she'll have to come up with another lie about how, because she didn't have any of the symptoms of the chromosome deletion, it was passed on to her daughter, and her daughter has all of the symptoms of the chromosome deletion because it skipped a generation or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's going to be something. I do think that she's pregnant, because even in the pictures where people are saying they can't see the belly, I can see the belly. And so most people don't know this, but when I was 15, I got pregnant for the first time, and that child was put up for adoption. And when I was 15, I was like 5 foot and as small as she was, and I could wear a sweatshirt and hide the stomach. Like, nobody knew that I was pregnant until I was literally about to give birth. So at that stage, that that weight and height, I believe that she'd be able to kind of hide it a little bit. And I think that she's probably not eating the healthiest, because somebody said that she was like not dieting, but just not eating like she should, because she didn't want to get fat. And for me, that says a lot, because like, you're I mean, you're supposed to eat when you're pregnant. Do you need to eat for two? No, but you do need to eat. And it doesn't look like she's gained anyway. It looks like it's all baby. What is it? Hey, Queen Diva. She's lost a lot of weight since being pregnant. She has a lot of weight. More weight than is normal. That's weird. I didn't even think about that. You're right. I can't pronounce your name. Bojork. She says, as a grandparent, that she would be showing off the granddaughter, and nobody's really showing off that a grandchild is coming. Thanks, Miss Shy. Um, I agree. As a grandparent, I was definitely like very excited when I found out that my son was having a baby. And as soon as I was able to get pictures, I was sharing them. Like, so yeah, I think you're right about that. So it's a little weird that that's not happening, but maybe they're being told not to by Lifetime. Maybe Lifetime has them kind of under lock and key with a lot of this stuff. Let's hope not, Ashka. Let's hope not. Sonia, you could be right that she's stressed out and not eating. Yeah. She was very heavy and her face was swollen. But you also have to remember when she was in prison, she was eating a lot of processed foods. Like microwavable macaroni and cheese and ramen noodles. And now that she's out, she has access to more fruits and vegetables and those kinds of things. So maybe it's just been a little bit of a diet change. I'm not sticking up for her in any stretch of the imagination, but I've changed my diet as well. And the first place that you can see it is in my face. My face starts to slim, and then you can start to see it in my arms. And then my butt ends up getting smaller. Then my waist ends up getting smaller. But the first place you're actually able to notice it is in my face first. She does like her Mickey D's fries. I actually like Freddy's fries. I don't know if you've ever had Freddy's fries, but they're so good. I think that she purposely is hiding her pregnancy. I don't think that she enjoys pregnancy very much. And I think that that's the reason why she continues to cover up and why she's not like proudly showing her pregnancy belly. And I also think that she's not showing her pregnancy belly because it keeps everyone else talking about it. It's a way for her to get attention. I mean, and we know she loves attention. So by her not showing her baby belly all the time, people are skeptical. So therefore, they're yapping about it and they're keeping her relevant. It's all by design. You have to remember that. She's very manipulative. So everything she does is done for a reason to attract attention and gossip and talk and all of those things. Okay, I'm going to get started. I don't know about that. I love Pepsi. Pepsi is my favorite. When I saw that it was all over her house in the crime scene, I was like, yep, everybody loves Pepsi. Even Gypsy loves Pepsi. Okay, so we're going to start with chapter 19, which is Amor Amor. Go ahead, Tara, cook dinner and listen while I'm reading. I just finished eating. My public life really began when my family and I participated in the HBO documentary Mommy Dead and Dearest, which aired in May of 2017. An independent documentary filmmaker named Aaron Lee Carr contacted Dad, Christy, and Mike about doing a documentary about my childhood and interviewing me. There had been so much press covering surrounding coverage surrounding Nick and me, it felt good to have an opportunity to explain my side of the story. They began production as I was awaiting my court hearing before the plea deal, but I remember vividly that I was interviewed hours after I accepted the plea. In the process, I learned so much about what my dad and Christy had gone through, and hearing from extended family members was enlightening. It helped provide a context to see how far reaching my mother's impact had been. None of us expected the response. While, yes, there were haters, the outpouring of support was shocking. People from all over the world sent me letters of encouragement, support, and of their own that they too can survive. My heart broke as I read letters depicting graphic abuse, hopelessness, and shame. Let me stop right there. My heart broke as I read letters depicting graphic abuse, hopelessness, and shame. I bet these letters that she was written were the stories where she stole information so that she could use to claim that it was her own story. That's why she's been able to be so good at reciting some of these details, because she had it all written down, told to her by the person that actually had the ABUSE done to them. And she had years to practice in the mirror, pretending and acting like this said victim. You know what I'm saying? Hold on. Rod needs a lot. Kimber, relax. Okay, where was I at? Family members of imprisoned loved ones wrote to my dad and Christy looking for connection in a club they did not choose to be in. One letter in particular stuck out to me. His voice leaped off the page as if he were sitting right in front of me. Holding the paper, I could feel his energy. He was just a cool not guy. His name is Ken. Ken, funny. My mother never liked Barbie's Ken. Fuck it, I thought. I wrote him back. We wrote each other letters and started talking on the phone. He was easy to talk to, and we had so much in common. He was from a big family with lots of siblings, which, having been brought up as an only child, appealed to me. I imagined their holiday gatherings being really loud and chaotic, and that brought on a smile. I couldn't wait for Ken to visit me. When he did, I was swept off my feet. Dang, he's handsome. After 37 minutes, he leaned over and gave me the most passionate kiss of my whole life. I'm not trying to be gross, but for a guy, why would you want to kiss a girl that has a mouthful of dentures? Like, isn't that gross? Like, isn't that gross? Like, you're in your 20s and you're kissing this girl who looks like she's 12 and has dentures. That's gross. Yeah, and they were literal strangers. They didn't even know each other. Hey, Monica. I didn't even know you liked me like that, I said as the guard charged towards us. Yeah, I have for a while, he said. I have for a while too. Poor Ken got kicked out for that kiss since the rule is no touching. I got lucky because that's an offense that can get you thrown in the hole. It was 100% worth it. The first time Ken told me he loved me, felt like I had taken the most powerful opioid of all. Love was my new drug. Will you be my husband one day? I asked him on the phone after about a year of our friendship and courtship. Of course, he said. And while I hadn't proposed, his confirming his plans for us that we would one day be mutual had me walking on air. During an October visit, about a year and a half after that call, disregarding the rules, Ken held my hands close and told me how much I meant to him. I had a feeling a proposal was coming, and since we talked about our future together, but I never expected such beautiful words like the ones Ken spoke to me in the visitor's room. Gypsy, I know you through and through, and I love you for who you are today, for the heart I've come to know. Then Ken motioned his hands over his chest, over his heart, and continued, I want to spend every day waking up next to you, building a life with you, and being the one that you can come to through all the hard times. I want to be that one person for you. Will you marry me? And she, of course, says yes. He couldn't propose with a ring because of prison restrictions on bringing offenders gifts. I did find a silver band for sale on the black market in prison. An inmate was getting a divorce and was selling her silver band, so I bought it. It was confiscated shortly after. We kept our engagement private, only telling our closest family. Then the act aired on Hulu, and I went from being known to being a pseudo celebrity. Hold on, buddy. My personal life was a carcass for vultures to feast on. The media, including true crime armchair enthusiasts, investigated everything about me, including Ken. The invasion was really hard on him. After an acquaintance of one of my family members leaked my relationship, clickbait articles appeared mockingly announcing our engagement. Ken was a private person and was bothered by the attention and scrutiny. The news of our engagement reached Nick, who sent me a letter in 2019, not too long after he got sentenced. I thought that they were not able to communicate with one another. So, how would Nick have been able to send her a letter in prison? Like, I'm pretty sure that when you're co-defendants and you're still pretty much on trial, that you're not able to communicate with one another. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that they weren't allowed to communicate with one another. Basically, Nick said I was committing adultery, that he had taken my virginity when he raped me. Now, we all know that she was having sex with people before Nick. Nick was not her first time. She was having sex with men before him. So here she contradicts herself yet again by saying that Nicholas was her first when we all know he wasn't. And that by God's law, we were married. That letter was reminiscent of his dominant role that he was obsessed with playing out when we had our internet relationship. His attempt to control me and humiliate me as his submissive for his own deviant sexual pleasure had gotten old. Only because I was in a healthy. Hold on, you guys. I just found some kind of lump on my dog. Wait. Hold on, buddy. Good boy. I think it's a mole. Okay. I just have to, like, anytime I feel something, I need to check to make sure it's not anything serious. Lay down. Lay down. That hurts, buddy. His attempt to control me and humiliate me as his submissive for his own deviant sexual pleasure had gotten old, only because I was in a healthy relationship with Ken, who was my best friend, who made me feel special and appreciated. Was I finally able to see how pathological Nick and I were when we were together. I wrote him one letter back, which acted as a closure letter. Co-defendants in the state of Missouri can communicate and even be housed together, but becoming pen pals, no pun intended, was never my intention. Can somebody look that up really quick? Can somebody just Google if inmates are allowed to communicate in the co-defendants, if they're allowed to communicate when they're in jail? In the letter to Nick, I told him I didn't want to get back into a relationship with him, that I'd moved on. I covered everything I wanted him to know from A to Z, from getting arrested all the way to the present, about how I felt. How we were basically children, adults with the mindsets of children going through this ordeal. I told him I realized he didn't have much outside experience, and I understood that. And I felt a sense of guilt, which is why I testified on his behalf at his trial. I felt that taking accountability for my role was the right thing to do. I didn't do it out of love, but out of a sense of obligation and due diligence to justice. Sorry, that was a lot of sound. I needed to make sure I was clear on that because I didn't want Nick to misconstrue my letter for wanting to be with him. I thought at first it was Ken's discomfort with the popularity of the act and the widening of my reputation that led him to end our relationship, but I was wrong. At the time of writing this, Ken has reached out to explain and set the record straight. There were many adults in his life, presumably much wiser than he, who suggested it wasn't the right time for me to be married. If you love her, you'll set her free, was the common piece of advice he'd hear again and again, sometimes from prominent Hollywood therapists and other media personalities, sometimes from those in my own immediate family. I see now he believed he was acting in my best interest by sacrificing his own needs and wants. I don't think he sacrificed his own needs and wants. I think he did exactly what he wanted to do, which was get out of the relationship. I wrote him one letter back. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong page. The rite of passage of losing my first love happened alone in prison instead of in my bedroom, surrounded by girlfriends playing me a breakup mix and eating pints of Ben and Jerry's like in the movies. It was a time I missed my mom. Why does she think that things happen like they do in the movies? That's not how shit happens. The movies are the movies for a reason because it's fucking fake. Nothing happens like that in the movies. It's made to make you feel something so you get a hit of dopamine. Nothing actually happens that way. Yeah, I think you're right. Back to Bushwick. Yeah, she thinks everything is a fairy tale. Everything is like in the movies, and that's just not the way it is. It was a time when I missed my mom, a time that should have been shared between a mother and daughter, but never would be. Yeah, because you unalived her. Like, how dare you act like you're upset that you couldn't have that moment with your mom when you literally took it away from the both of you? I thought about rugs. I thought about the smock Instead, I cut off all my hair and made depression my new friend. My faith, along with the passing of time and lots of crying to Christy, revealed that God had a plan for me. Another blessing. Okay, so she does bring up Ryan in this book. He had seen the very same documentary on HBO that Ken had, but Ryan Anderson didn't write me until much later. Ryan came into my life during a time when I had hardened my heart. Rebound, maybe. I couldn't see that then. He was very charming. His deep voice and familiar Southern accent made me feel safe and special. Having grown up in Louisiana, Ryan felt like home to me because Ryan was also a proud Louisianian. We bantered about his favorite football team, the New Orleans Saints, and mine, the Kansas City Chiefs. I could learn to love the Saints. I'd say all flirty on the phone. I had lived in Louisiana and Missouri after all, but I didn't want to trust again. There was that choice once more. I was still stuck. My fear and feeling that I wasn't good enough were like brick walls that I couldn't bust through. Do I let Ryan in? Do I try this again and risk getting hurt? Ryan's sense of humor lifted my vibrations, and he laughed at my jokes too. Soon I was growing impatient for our next phone call. We had deep conversations about life, about pop culture, about our hopes for the future. He shared with me his fears and vulnerabilities and his kryptonite. In return, I spilled every dark moment I had growing up. More lies, more lies. We're on chapter 19. This all these dark moments that she shared were lies that she stole from the letters that people were writing her in prison. I had been able to finally open up and not feel ashamed for my actions and past. We prayed together. We planned together. Some say he was my distraction and he afforded me something happy to look forward to day after day. Even though Ryan wasn't as in prison, I think I was the same for him. Ryan and I fought too, like an old regular couple, and I think those arguments made our relationship deeper and more serious. I showed my ugly side to Ryan. You know, like that point in a new relationship when you fart or leave the bathroom door open. How would she even know about that? Like, how would she even know? I worked out a lot of shit with him, tossing him my baggage. I'd feel bad after the fact about doing that, but then he'd toss me his baggage and I'd say, "Oh, okay, we're doing this." Ryan learned my triggers and I his. Once he told me, "You're my heart," and my body felt like it was trapped in a room filling up with water, so I cussed him out. He didn't know my mother had said that to me constantly. It's inevitable. Oh, let me stop there. She says he didn't know my mother had said that to me constantly, but in the documentary or in the podcast with that wrestler guy, whatever his name is, she said that her mother, whenever she chained her to the bed, had said, "You're my heart, and I can't live without my heart." That's what she said on that podcast. Not that it was something that she said all the time, that it was something that she said right when she chained her up to the bed or whatever. It's inevitable that the things that my mother did and said and how I was raised will affect certain decisions and behaviors moving forward. But I don't want them to. I want clarity on how I live and what I choose to carve out for myself and my future family. That will take work, but I'm a hard worker. Another lie. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you for the gift. I've been working on this ever since my release from prison. Ryan and I talked multiple times throughout the day and for hours before bed. And this enabled us to fast track our relationship until we finally made our marriage commitment to each other. Many people, including my dad and Christy, I was going to call her Chrismy, told me not to marry Ryan. It's obvious Ken had never left my heart. They at least wanted us to wait. But I see now that after a lifetime of being in love with the idea of being in love in my 30s, I felt this desperate need to find and create a family that I was once robbed of, complete with a Southern Prince Charming, even if I wasn't meant to be. In October of 2022, about 4 months after Ryan and I had our prison wedding, the good boy, sit, lay down, lay down, lay down. Good boy. In October of 2022, about 4 months after Ryan and I had our prison wedding, the weight of the responsibility of being someone's wife hit me hard. Self-doubt smeared my fledgling self-worth, and being Miss Anderson threw a wrench in my still developing identity. Kimber, lay down. Good boy. Good boy. Friends and family were skeptical and concerned. So there were lots of cooks in the kitchen turning up the flame. But also, I was afraid to be accountable to someone again. The relationships I had with my mother and with Nick required me to be bossed around. As a teacher, Ryan's natural demeanor was to take charge, and that personality trait seemed to rattle me, reminding me of how I was raised. Now she's trying to villainize Ryan again by saying that his natural demeanor was to take charge and that scared her. Lay down. Good boy. Alone and tired of crying over the latest argument with Ryan and I thought I could share my fear and confusion with some trusted friends, writing, "Hi, friends. I just want to let you know that I'm thinking about going forward with an annulment. I was hoping my friends would walk me off the ledge, tell me it was normal to feel this way, that the finality of being married sinks in for many newlyweds, and that would be that." But they didn't. They knew we weren't supposed to be together, but like every other lesson I've learned in life, I've had to figure it out on my own. Kimber, relax. Good boy. Very good. No. Good. I managed to be in prison for about 6 years without going to the hole. Drugs didn't get me there. Ken's passionate kiss didn't get me there, nor did bad behavior. Buddy, stop. Down. Stay. Chew on that. Go get it. He's being annoying. He's like, why are you giving? Yeah, he wants to be seen. He's upset. He's like, why are you reading that damn book? Put that book down and play with me. Come on, buddy. Here. That's what he wanted. He wanted me to throw the ball. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. I think this is pronounced agri-do, which means sweet and sour. I had managed to be in prison for about 6 years without going to the hole. Drugs didn't get me there, nor did bad behavior. Of a population of roughly 2,500 at Chillicothe, it's rare to meet a woman who hasn't been in segregation. I prided myself on being one of the few. That was strategic. Wait a minute. Is she saying that she never went to segregation, but just earlier in the previous chapter, she said that she did get to segregation because of that kiss that her and Ken had? Right? Like, I heard that right, right? She said the kiss was worth it, even though she had to go to the hole for it. Right? Or did I hear that incorrectly? Okay. I had something to lose. Release. I was careful and hell bent on letting nothing get in the way of my parole. I kept my head down and only hung out with my best, closest friends, Lori and Amelia. Getting involved in the business of rival groups was a surefire way to be charged with a new crime that could add time to your sentence. Hell no. If there was drama, I looked the other way. A fight, I'd slither out of the rec room. It was September 2021, and I had a little over 2 years until my eligible parole date of December 2023. But I had been preparing for my upcoming meeting with the parole board in December of 21. In Missouri, inmates who have completed 85% of their sentence fulfill the mandatory minimum and meet with the parole board for the first time. Ryan and I, we patched up our differences, began to dream out loud about the fantasy of me getting paroled early. At worst, the 24 months gave us a timeline to slash pen marks through. Ryan described the apartments he was scoping out for us. Those phone calls discussing my wish list for a home made my day pass more quickly. The last time I made such a wish list was for Habitat for Humanity. It was for a playhouse, a ramp, and a hot tub. My mother was the one who had the idea to paint it her favorite color, pink. My taste grew up as I did. Now, instead of the life size Barbie dream house, I wanted granite countertops and stainless steel appliances and hardwood floors and high ceilings. And I definitely needed a patio or terrace, somewhere where I could go get some sun and breathe fresh air whenever I pleased. That would be the best part of freedom, to be in nature. When the fuck have we seen Gypsy out in nature? Like, I've never seen her hiking in the woods. I've never seen her out at the park. She did that one time with Parker, but she wasn't even playing. She was just like filming them out at the park that he was playing with his dog. Like, she's never been out in the fucking woods. I'd love to see this bitch go on a camping trip. She wouldn't last 5 minutes. One morning around 10 a.m., I was in my pajamas having my morning coffee, watching the Food Network, when a CO appeared in the doorway. Miss Blanchard, I need you to come with me. My eyebrows furrowed. I was really nervous as I followed him down to the rotunda where another guard stood. Is he waiting for me? The CO said nothing. He simply presented me to the guard, handed me over, and walked away. Wait, what? Is this a joke? What am I in trouble for? What did I do? I spun my head around as if the answers could be found in the air around me. I don't know, said the guard, but I gotta put the handcuffs on you. His demeanor was neutral, and he took me by the arm and walked me outside to the housing unit and into a holding cell where there was another inmate sleeping. I spotted an intercom and buzzed it, unclear of whom I answered. Yes, said the voice. Excuse me, why am I downstairs? You're under investigation, the voice said. For what? I asked, my face burning. We don't know. Nobody knew anything yet. I was held there for 3 days until I had a committee hearing to determine my penalty for my mystery infraction. Do we know why you were under investigation? The sergeant asked during the hearing. The last time somebody asked me that question, I was in a sheriff's office in Wisconsin. This time I was telling the whole truth. No, not at all, I said, wiping the sweat from my palms. Well, we don't either, he said. An ominous feeling came over me. I knew this feeling. It was the same feeling I had when my mother willed me against my will to the shed. I didn't know why I was in trouble. There was no reasoning with anyone. I'm not in control. What's happening? What's going to happen now? I cried. You've been assigned to segregation. The whole? I wanted to jump out of my chair and run. What in the holy fuck? What did I even do? Being escorted to the hole felt like a funeral procession. I don't know if this story is true. Thank you. Thank you for the hearts. I don't know if this story is true, but it would be nice if somebody that was in prison with her could confirm or deny if this actually happened the way that she's saying it happened. Um, I do know that she has made several comments about some letter or something that happened because of people online, that's why she got in trouble. Kimber, I need to get, hold on, his ball got trapped in a place where he can't get it. But I can't remember like what that was for. And she says she was in the hole for like a week. Thank you. I think that she lives in fantasy so much that she has no perception of what is actually like reality. That's my opinion. These are so small that they literally slide under everything. They slide under all my furniture. They slide under the doors. So I'm constantly looking for them. He has 6 of them. He's got 3 blue ones and 3 yellow ones. And we go through all 6 of them until they're all missing. And then I find them all. And then it's like the process all over again. But I bought him a couple that were a little bit bigger because some people were like, well, this is kind of small. He could choke on it. So I got him the bigger size ones. He does not like those. He likes these because these he can put in his mouth like completely and chew on. So he's like doing 2 exercises at once. He's playing fetch, and then he's also like getting his gums a nice workout. Where was that? Being escorted to the hole felt like a funeral procession. Other inmates who were walking around camp had to stop walking, turn their backs to me, and I walked behind the CO. They would remain frozen like that until we passed through. My tears streamed down my khaki uniform, turning it dark brown, the color of dirt. As I moved slowly toward what I felt like my final resting place, I was being buried alive, and the gravediggers had no idea why. How will Ryan and my parents know where I am at? For sure, they'll be worried when they don't hear from me. Gossip travels like wildfire in prison, but a story about the hole travels at lightning speed. My friend Lori was told by another inmate that I was taken down. She called Ryan and told him what happened. Without explanation, everyone's imagination went wild. Was Gypsy in the hole because of one of Ryan's visits? Did they kiss or touch too intimately? Could she have gone back to DRUGS? Did another inmate make up a story to F with her? Ryan called the prison, but they wouldn't tell him anything either. Finally, I was informed that I was put in the hole because they were investigating me for a potential plan to escape prison. My parole hearing is in a few months, and I've already done the majority of my time. I said I would never do that. I'm not fucking crazy, y'all. That's not her saying, no, I didn't do that. My dog, if he threw it back, he doesn't do that. That would be cool though. She always wants sympathy. It's fucking annoying. Like, yes, back to Bushwick. She basically did escape prison. 8 years for schmurder. She escaped prison. Kimber, it's behind the door, buddy. Let me go get him his ball. And he's so funny too, because whenever he's like, whenever he is chewing, whenever he's chewing on one of the balls, this is the only one that he'll want to play with until the next day. So if I try to throw one of the other balls to him, it's like he knows that that's not the ball I was just playing with him with, and he'll wait until I give him the exact same one back. It's like, I don't know if he knows because it's wet because his mouth was on it, or if it smells fresher. I don't know, but he knows which ball is the one that I'm playing with him with, and that's the one he wants. So I can't trick him and throw a different one because he won't go to that one. He wants exactly the one that I've been throwing. Hey, Roma. Being in the hole for a solid 2 weeks was the same as being kidnapped. No. We're finishing the book now. I'm sorry, but being kidnapped is not like going to the hole. Not at all. I had no access to time or people. I sat there in the dark, not knowing my fate or how long the punishment would be. I was defenseless, and literally and figuratively. There was nonstop noise in the hole. What was it, buddy? Give me the ball. Screaming was incessant. There was a woman next door to me who screamed out all hours of the day and night. Shrill noises I couldn't shake from my ears. Banging and arguing echoed throughout the day and night. I was being assassinated by sounds of desperation. To keep myself sane, I envisioned the apartment Ryan was hunting for. Maybe the bathroom will have a dressing table to put makeup on and do my hair. I should add that to my wish list. They don't make those in apartments. Like, you got to buy that extra. I prayed to God a lot. God, give me the strength to survive this. Please don't let this affect my parole. I put all my faith in God that He had gotten me this far. I thanked Him for sending me His blessing when the courts showed me mercy. I don't want to be greedy, God, but can you please send me another blessing? You don't want to be greedy, but literally after spending 3 years in prison, you started writing to the governors or whoever in Missouri to try to lessen your time, but you don't want to seem greedy. In the hole, I could only take a 5-minute shower twice a week. and it's a cage shower. So you're standing under the sprinkler naked in front of the female guards. When you go into the cage shower, there is a cubbyhole for you to put your hands through, like the ones in the Western movies, so guards can handcuff you from the other side. There was a toilet in my cell, so I had to do my business out in the open. The goal is to take away your dignity. Mine was flushed on day one. For 2 weeks, I reminded that I had no rights. Someone wrote on social media something like, "She doesn't belong in prison. I wish I could bust her out." An unknown source reported that post to the prison. I don't believe this story at all, because how does what somebody else posts on social media get you in trouble unless you ask that person to post on social media? How does what I post affect you? Um Even if it said something like, "Oh, I'm going to break her out of jail." You know what I mean? Like, they would have done an investigation. They wouldn't have just thrown her directly in the hole. So, whatever she's trying to cover up, she actually did something to get herself put in the hole and is trying to act again like the victim, like she did nothing wrong. She did something, and she's not telling people whatever it was. Authorities went through my stuff looking for writings or plans or any correspondence that indicated I knew the person who wrote the troublemaking post, which I didn't. Letting me out of the hole came with as much explanation as going in. Poof, suddenly I could go back. An inmate who rejoins population after segregation looks markedly different, weathered like a prisoner of war failing to assimilate to their regular life. Nothing is regular again after a whole time. I still have nightmares. In one dream, they put me in the hole for being Wiccan. In another, male guards put me in the hole for not stripping for them on demand. In another dream, I'm in a cell in the hole, and Ryan is in an adjacent cell, and we whisper to each other through the vents. Upon returning to population, I did my best to resume my normal routine. My parole hearing was still set for December 9th. Is it a coincidence that her parole hearing was set for December 9th and so was her divorce? Coincidence? This girl and these dates, it's not a coincidence. These dates are not a coincidence. Kind of like her mother died on June 9th and she was able to make an appointment to have I guess to find out her baby was a girl on the same day. Yeah. How to tell the truth by lying. Exactly. But I was freaking out for 2 months straight that my time in the hole would tarnish my parole eligibility in 2023. Around 9 in the morning on the day of the hearing, Christy met me in a visitation room where we sat with Deputy Warden Amy Parkhurst and video conferenced in two other members of the parole board. I had asked Christy to be my delegate to speak on my behalf. One of the men on the screen asked me questions, none of which were about the crime itself. They were interested in hearing from me personally about my upbringing and relationship with my mother. I told him a little bit about the abuse. He asked me where I had met Nick. He said he was not familiar with my case, at least the details of it, so I explained our story. Then he wanted to hear about the programs I participated in and completed while at Chillicothe. I showed my certificates and also my GED. So her getting her GED was literally part of her ability to get out of prison. Like, it was a part of the deal. Like, you want parole, you have to get your GED. Otherwise, I highly doubt she would have even done that. Like, she's so fucking lazy. She's not going to do anything for any reason if it does not benefit her in some way. He even complimented me on only having 13 minor infractions, which are just write ups. Have you had any mental health treatment while you have been here? Deputy Warden Parkhurst asked. No, ma'am, I tried, but did not qualify. Deputy Warden Parkhurst validated the trauma I endured, and she encouraged me to seek therapy upon my release. Christy jumped in enthusiastically, saying she has loving parents and siblings, and we will get her all the support she needs. Heck, we'll all go into therapy. Yeah, because that's exactly what you're doing right now. You're all going into therapy. Sure. Deputy Warden Parkhurst explained that it takes the board up to 4 weeks' time to make their decision. That was a Thursday. By the following Monday, I was called to the office of the institutional parole officer to give me my letter in person. I stood before her, took in a deep breath, held it, and opened the seal. Being granted early parole, I felt like a pregnant woman sitting out the first trimester to share her news. Believe me, I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. I'm being released on December 28th, 2023, y'all, but there is so much at stake. People in prison get jealous of short timers. They'd call my sentence baby time, which it is. Sometimes they even retaliate and try to get you in trouble to jeopardize your parole. I wish somebody would have done that. I honestly wish that somebody would have set her ass up in prison and gotten her more time. That's what she deserves. After going to the hole for no reason at all, I couldn't risk anyone finding out. I started eating alone, keeping to myself. I think some people suspected something was up because I'm a chatterbox by nature. We also wanted to keep the media from finding out I was getting released 2 years early. After the act, there was a lot of gossip. I didn't want haters to dampen the hope I had in my heart. Ryan moved into our apartment before me, decorating it with Fleur de Lil's pillows and art wall. Oh, the symbol of New Orleans was my mother's go-to accessory around the house and in our front yard. That's funny. I don't think I ever saw one of those signs in her house, but maybe I'm wrong. There'll be no beige anywhere, Ryan said, assuring me our color scheme would be bright and happy with gold accents everywhere. You've seen enough beige for a lifetime. He told me, beige? Her house wasn't beige. Weren't the walls blue on the inside? He told me he tested out the kitchen making gumbo. He joked that rivaled my dad's. I could smell the Cajun seasoning. I could see Ryan in a silly apron that said something like, I don't need Google, I have Gypsy. I don't need Google, I have Gypsy. That literally tells you that she spends a lot of fucking time on the internet. Maybe we'd even get a dog. I was letting myself go to the places in my imagination that I had been afraid to go to. I was no longer afraid to let myself hope or trust. I thought we were skiing downhill with the winds at our backs. Our monthly countdown whittled to weeks, and the X's I penned on the calendar felt like kisses. My dad and Christy and Ryan planned the logistics of my release. I, on the other hand, was focused on what really mattered. What will I wear? I wanted to look pretty for Ryan, but had never planned an outfit before. Either my mother dressed me or I wore a khaki uniform. It was a lot of fun asking my sister Mia what was trendy. I had to guess my jean size, and Ryan went out and shot for me. I still giggle at how lost he must have looked roaming around the women's department trying to tell the difference between skinny jeans and high rise and boot cut. I'm sure he went back to exchange them 3 times. Yeah, I'm sure she made him go back and exchange them 3 times. The real challenge was the shoes. He needed to pick out just the right pair, but also guess my shoe size. Ryan would then mail my ensemble and shoes in a dress out box with my name on it, which I would change into the morning of my release. I had an actual day, December 28, 2023. I said it over and over again, never getting sick of the sound. Someone pinch me, please. Well, the joke was on me. One day in August, about 4 months before my release, I was in the canteen when a bunch of inmates approached me. We know you got parole. I tried to play dumb, but you can't outscam a bunch of scam artists. Blindsided and angry, I called Dad and Christy. We had managed to keep it under wraps for almost a year until someone leaked the story to In Touch Weekly. I think it was someone Christy had told in confidence, and it was a hard lesson and a warning about what we needed to do when I was released. Keep our circle small. That was going to be hard. I was trying to do two things at once: embrace my public platform and maintain my inner circle that was 100% certain wouldn't screw me or the rest of my beloved family. Could these two things happen simultaneously? Yes, but not without making a lot of mistakes along the way. I tried to put the negativity of the snitch out of my head. Finally, my future was the near future. One more holiday season to cycle through. I'd be with Ryan on New Year's Eve. What would we do? How would we celebrate the beginning of 2024? While it felt like a tease to be released just 3 days after Christmas, having the week between Christmas and New Year's to celebrate my freedom worked out for friends and family who wanted to travel to Missouri to be with me. They were planning a big old belated Christmas for me, something I had never seen before, with presents and food and lots of laughter and love. Oh, and one small Lifetime channel camera crew. Christy went into her usual charge mode, looking for a rental house in Overland Park, Kansas, just over the Missouri line that would fit us all. Her hands cramped from wrapping so many presents after she and Mia were my personal shoppers because I wanted to have gifts for everyone too. Christy and Mia bought confetti, party decorations, and baked a buttercream frosted sheet cake, complete with rainbow sprinkles and candles that spelled out celebrate. When Ryan told me that the City Chiefs were playing the New Orleans Saints on New Year's Eve, I was psyched. This was a sign. The two cities I had grown up in playing on such a special night. This wasn't just a sign, it was symbolic. My dad bought us tickets for seats in the sixth row. Ryan ordered me a bunch of Chiefs swag, including a pom pom ski hat, while he coordinated his own over the top Saints garb. Excuse me. The plan was to have our first Eve's kiss at Arrowhead Stadium. What better way to spend the new year than to ring in a new life? This one's called Released. Libere. I don't know how it's pronounced. 3 days from my release day, I spent Christmas Day crying. When I wasn't crying, I slept the day away. When I wasn't sleeping, I paced. Time felt like a straitjacket. I purposely didn't speak to Ryan or Dad and Christy on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. It felt intrusive to call. Dad and Christy's house at Christmas time is usually busting at the seams. Ryan was with his own family. Something inside me told me to let them enjoy their traditions the way they were used to without me. In just a few days, everyone's lives would be forever altered. I feel this was especially true for my brother and sister. I wanted to be sensitive to their feelings. They had our parents to themselves all their lives. Why does she keep calling Christy her parent? That is your stepmother who literally was not even really like a parent to you because you weren't even in this woman's life much of your life. So why does she do that? Why does she say my parents? Why don't you just specify my dad? Yeah, right, exactly, Roma. This whole family abandoned you. Literally did not even try to see you not one fucking time while you were up in Missouri. They did not care about you at all. And now all of a sudden they're your parents. Girl, please. It's like she's trying to erase her mother's own existence or the fact that Dee Dee was her actual mother. Like it's like she's trying to just push Christy into this role of being her mother and totally disregard that Dee Dee was the one who actually gave birth to this demon. I imagined them at the dinner table thinking how it's the last time Christmas will be exactly this way. Were they happy or sad about that? If they were sad, I don't blame them. Change, even good change, can be sad. I think that's why I felt so down those last days. My life also would be changing. The only friends I ever had were at Chillicothe. The only job I worked was there too. The only education I received was within those walls. When I arrived at Chillicothe, I felt freer than I ever had. Although I had outgrown that version of freedom, it was still bittersweet to leave it all behind. December 28th, 2023. Typically, when inmates are released, they change into the clothes given to them in their dress out box. Some people file onto a bus that takes them to a bus station. Others are picked up by someone they know. I was the exception to the rule since the news of my parole broke along with announcements of a docu-series Lifetime was filming. The media's interest in my release was intense. This concerned the authorities at Chillicothe. Nobody wanted a scene. Ryan was going to pick me up, but we didn't know what time I'd be released until the prison called him. The secretiveness surrounding my discharge made it feel like a prison break, except with the help of the prison. The Lifetime crew and Ryan were staying minutes up the road, waiting for the call, telling them when they should head over. GoPros were placed inside Ryan's car, a blatant reminder that mine was no ordinary release. Hands shaking, I changed into my blue jeans and blue and white long sleeve shirt, savoring the moment I had been praying for. I was so excited to put my black platform heeled boots on, but they wouldn't zip past my ankles. My white socks would have to do. Ryan got the call at 2:30 a.m. to pick me up within 45 minutes. He headed to the prison, followed by the film crew. Once they reached the perimeter, police barricaded the area and told the crew to leave. Why is this book a memoir when literally everything in here, except for a certain few details, is everything that we've seen already? She hasn't really given us any new information in this book that would make it a memoir. Like there's nothing. Um Going back to the essay by the grandfather, there was a small bit of kind of new information about that, but there wasn't really anything new. There was more information in here about her relationship with Nicholas, but most of all this shit we already knew. And a lot of this was in the last book. The biting winter air felt exhilarating as I was escorted from the back of the prison to the passenger side of Ryan's car. I thought about the last time I was outside in the middle of the night to feel how low Missouri temperatures can dip. I had forgotten what night air smelled like. The car door shut, and just like that, I was alone with my husband in a warm car. There wasn't even time for a proper kiss. Ryan just pulled away as I buckled my seatbelt for the most surreal ride of my life. I thought he was going so fast. I had forgotten the sensation of a moving car. I was afraid I'd get sick. I marveled at the iPhone Ryan handed to me, like a cave woman who traded in her sticks and rocks for a flashing, vibrating, beeping heap of plastic. I hadn't had a full night's sleep in a week. The heat from the vents lulled me, and I felt instantly exhausted but fought off sleep until I became hyper on the short ride. I would have put toothpicks under my eyelids to not miss a beat of this moment. Ryan and I went back to our hotel where he had reserved a suite for our very first night together. From what we could tell, we hadn't been followed by paparazzi. We made it inside, got into our room, and gave each other a long embrace, something we could never do in the visitors' room. We were able to doze off only to awake to a parking lot full of news vans. My white socks were turning brown underneath from exposure. I couldn't go the rest of the day shoeless. We had about an hour and a half drive from Chillicothe to where my family was waiting for me at an Airbnb. As much as I couldn't wait to see them, I couldn't wait another minute to get something on my feet. So we made a pit stop at a shoe store where I'd have my first interaction with media. Gypsy, one reporter said as Ryan and I left the shoe warehouse. What did you buy? Shoes, I said. Gypsy, do you have plans? Lots of them, I said while thinking, what is this man following me for? While we drove, I leaned my head against the glass, watching Ryan trying to lose the paparazzi following him. We feared they'd follow us to the Airbnb, and then Ryan's phone rang. The conditions of my parole were a bit wonky. Usually, you are not allowed to leave the state and you must regularly report to your parole officer. But since I was married to a man from Louisiana and my entire support system was also there, we'd have to get special approval for me to leave Missouri. This meant that until I got to Louisiana on New Year's Day, I was under the jurisdiction of the Missouri Department of Corrections, after which I would be transferred from having a Missouri parole officer to one in Louisiana. I was supposed to spend 4 days with my family at the Airbnb. People had driven from all over the country to greet me and celebrate. It was to be a bonding period and also a regrouping. Ryan and I would then go to the football game and head home to our apartment the next day. You know what they say about making plans. Ryan's caller ID was explicit. It was my parole officer calling. He had terrible news. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office, which oversees Kansas City, wanted her out of the state immediately. Wait, what? We had the whole week approved. We'd been planning this for months. What about the party? My family who took off from work. You have until 3 o'clock to leave. But it's already 1, Ryan said. The rest of the ride was not joyful. Instead of walking triumphantly in to greet my family on the verge of hyperventilating, she walked in like the victim that she is. Mike Stanfield received me with open arms, my defender, even now, and firmly said, tell me what they said. Panic and paranoia pumped through my body. I was inconsolable. I felt trapped, claustrophobic. I excused myself and went to a quiet place. My senses were overloaded. I had never been around this many people. I kept looking at the clock, thinking I had to be somewhere. I realized my body clock was waiting for count time. All the ruckus and confusion felt like a virus. The PO then blindsided us with even more bad news. Once I left Missouri, the transfer of authority to Louisiana couldn't happen until the offices reopened on January 3rd. She needs to be on lockdown in her apartment until she sees her PO in Louisiana, the PO said. That's 7 days, I cried. What about going to my mother's house for dinner? My mother's house? You mean your stepmother's house because you unalived your mother? Or did you forget that that's what the fuck you were in prison for? Oh, I'm sorry. Ryan asked. What about going to my mother's for dinner? Ryan asked. I was, whew, as if the PO was in a bargaining mood. Absolutely nowhere. She cannot leave the house for any reason at all except to meet her parole officer. In total lawyer mode, Mike dialed my PO from his phone while I waited in purgatory for others to slap down a verdict on my life. This time I hadn't done anything wrong. Gypsy will never be free. I let self pity take over. You stupid idiot. You thought you'd just get out, be married, open presents, and eat cake? Gorge yourself on dad's gumbo and have a sisterly sleepover with Mia, ring in a new year and new life? Fucking moron. Dumb, dumb. So dumb. It was as if Chillicothe had let me out only to boomerang me back. Freedom was an illusion. My decisions on how to spend my holiday were not mine. A dose of humility and reality knocked me over. I was back to not speaking for myself. Other people were speaking on my behalf, referring to me as she and her. Did I even matter? While my 40 plus guests had side conversations about what Mike was accomplishing on the phone, I was catapulted back to volunteer way. I was confined to a wheelchair. I was back in the closet of claws, in the alleyway with my mother, tied to the bedpost, running away and dragged back. The Airbnb was the shed. It was the scalpel that traced my throat. It was the hole. I just wanted out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll be good. Doesn't it get tiring for her? Thank you so much for the hearts. Doesn't it get tiring for her to constantly pretend to be a victim? It's going to happen. Don't you worry. We'll get there. Mm. This made me feel like an imposter. Hold on. I skipped a sentence. The sheriff's office explained to Mike that I posed a security risk. This made me feel shamefully aware of what people really thought of me. Yeah, you're a literal murderer. Of course, you are a safety risk. Like, you are the safety risk. You are an unaliver. Everyone who comes in your general vicinity is at risk of something, either being manipulated or, being. I was an imposter in a world that thinks I'm a monster because you are. You are a monster. You literally manipulated someone into unaliving your mother because you were too much of a coward to do it yourself. There's a lot of people out there, and I would have had more respect for her if she had done it herself. But no, you manipulated somebody to do it for you because you couldn't do it yourself. Or you could, but you didn't want to because you didn't think that you thought you knew you'd get in more trouble if you actually committed the crime yourself versus if you had somebody else do it. I know she thought that if she had Nicholas do it, she wasn't going to go to prison at all. That was what she was thinking in her mind. It was a foreshadowing of public opinion, and I was not in the least ready for it. Mike, though, worked his magic. The PO agreed to let me have until noon the next day to drive home. I didn't have to leave Missouri that instant. I could at least spend time. Hold on. My son. He's at work. He was asking me if I made dinner. Yes, she uses everything to her advantage. Everything that she can think of, she will use it. I could at least spend some time with those who love me. Watch my dad open the present I bought him and get a good night's sleep. The next day, it was back to lockdown. Joyeux de vivre. I'm not French. Forgive me if I don't know how to pronounce these French words, but it says the joy of living. I'd been here before. I don't mean in a car with a husband on a 13-hour road trip. I'd been detained and contained before. Nothing that I had experienced in my entire life made any sense. Like my mother's ABUSE, the doctor's negligence, SUICIDE watch, and the whole, the explanation for my rapid departure from Kansas City was vague, a security risk. Getting in the car with Ryan the next morning per our orders, I felt like an explanation mattered. We loaded the car with the gifts we received the night before. Opening presents in front of my friends and family felt like a bridal shower because I was being showered with ordinary things I needed to start a life outside of prison, a plush lilac robe to match our lavender bathroom, a snow white down puffer jacket, my first perfume a la Mia, 12 days of masking for when I have to spoil myself day, and a set of makeup brushes. I was so used to using paint brushes to put makeup that having a pretty set was like the epitome of luxury. Paint brushes? Is that what she's saying she used in prison to put her makeup on with? Tell me in the chat if that's accurate because I thought you had to do everything with your fingers. I didn't think that you got even paint brushes. But I don't know. I've never been to prison. So somebody knows, let me know. When I opened a pair of chocolate brown knee high boots, I was so excited. I had to try them on, especially since my shoe size 6, by the way, was in question. Hooker boots, my dad called out, kidding but not kidding as the room laughed. I said how I felt awkward about being the center of attention, especially during holidays. Then Christy said unapologetically, "This Christmas is all about you, baby girl." Then the unwrapping continued. A flat iron, bath bombs for my first bath in forever, a cookbook, a 3-piece luggage set for the New York trip with Ryan and I would be taking in January, the Mickey Mouse stemless wine glasses for my first sip. I bought Ryan a new chain with a cross on it, and he stunned me with his mother's ring that she had given him years before to give to his future wife. That was me. Someone's wife in a car on a road trip to home. I'd be thinking about home a lot ever since my parole was granted. When home became less an idea and more a tangible thing that belonged to me, the week prior to my release, I had to attend a mandatory seminar with all the other women who were getting out the same day. We were informed of logistics first. Anyone who didn't have someone coming to pick them up had to board a bus, which would take them to the bus depot. After that, they'd be on their own. It became clear to me how many of the women in the room were meeting nobody. They were the majority, from what I could tell. We were given information about the conditions of parole, beginning with be sure to report to your parole officer. Mine was going to be out of state. So, along with having a husband to pick me up, this also made me realize how unique and frankly lucky my situation was. There was talk about job search strategies, determining skills, and finding residences. Somewhere about halfway through our road trip, I remembered these women, my fellow released. I wondered where they all were on day two. Looking out the window, I counted my blessings. I had a safe, clean place to go, a family and support system beyond belief, and a purpose to occupy my days, including writing this book. I even had a therapist waiting. My future had more of a chance than that of many of the women sitting in the bus depot back in Missouri. Suddenly, an explanation for kicking me out of Kansas didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. What mattered was that God had decided I needed to go home now, not next week. Every time something terrible happened or I was blindsided, disappointed, disregarded, something good always came from it. I had to remember to trust. Just trust that I was here where I was supposed to be in that very moment. Maybe I wouldn't know why, but soon enough, when I was ready, I would. The philosophy carries me through to this day, even after so much has happened since my release. We got home in the wee hours of December 30th and crashed. I felt terrible that I couldn't share in the driving. Yeah, you'd think that with her being, 33 and all and getting ready to have a baby, that maybe she would have thought about learning how to fucking drive first. Like, how selfish of her to get pregnant knowing she can't drive this child to any doctor's appointments. She can't take this child anywhere without depending on someone else. Why would you do that? Why? Why would you do that? It's like a teenager having a baby. That philosophy carries me through to this day, even after so much has happened since my release. We got home in the wee hours of December 30th and I crashed. Okay, sorry. I felt terrible that I couldn't share in the driving, but I did try to be an entertaining co pilot, messing with my iPhone, pressing buttons, and experimenting with sounds and displays. Lounging around our new home was exactly what I needed. I toured the apartment, and it was just as Ryan had described it to me. I had coffee on the terrace. I couldn't have planned a more pleasant weather. The fact that I could step outside anytime I wanted and let that mild Louisiana winter breeze through my hair made me giddy. I kept going back inside just to step outside again because I could. Don't get me wrong, it was surreal. I felt like I was walking around in bizarro world, especially when I learned to do my very first video post on TikTok. It went viral, receiving a majority of supportive comments. From then on, I'd be following a technical and emotional learning curve. Turns out, when it came to tech, I was a little bit thick headed. When it came to public opinion, I was a little thin skinned. We had no plans for New Year's Eve. My dad and Christy almost seemed enthusiastic that I had to forego the original plan to spend New Year's Eve at the Chief Saints game. On a brief check in visit after I got home, Dad said, "Why don't we come over to your apartment? We'll cook, put on some music, just chill, just hang out together, just us." Christy stood nodding and smiling as if a special private wish she had was granted. Dad's baby blues glimmered like this was the best idea ever. It was. God didn't want me ringing in a new year and a new life with 70,000 strangers. He wanted me back where he always intended me to be, home. My mother had taken me out of Louisiana almost 20 years before. That's funny for someone who doesn't know how old they are. Sure does know how long they had been living in Missouri. But yeah, couldn't keep up with her own age. What a responsibility. Keeping up with your own age. Who would have thought? My mother had taken me out. The explanations were vague, more mere guesses. She had taken me from my father and family and replaced the void in my heart with lies and hurt. She had taken me away from Cajun culture, far away from what made me me. She had taken so much from me. I had taken so much from her. But here I was, back where it all began, the bayou. That day, Dad and Christy rushed through the front door carrying bags and bags of groceries. It was the kind of intrusion only close family has the right to, and I loved it. It was the beginning of my first holiday with family, and despite it being just the four of us, it started out busy and noisy, the way I always imagined a family spending time together. We cooked, bantered, turned on the Saints game, then we had a dance party in the kitchen. I never had so much fun. There were no plastic bags on the windows blocking out the dancing in the street. There were only the smells of spice, the sweet sound of laughter, and the smooth touch of my dad's hand as he asked me to dance. In the small kitchen of my newlywed apartment, I had my first father daughter dance. My dad and I swayed to Tim McGraw's My Little Girl. He twirled me, he dipped me, he hugged me close. I closed my eyes and then opened them again to make sure it was all real. The dream of a happy family I had while I was locked in the shed was not a dream at all. It was a premonition. I realized then I had not been released, I had been returned. Should we read the epilogue? A Day of Balance, June 10th, 2024. Today marks the 9-year anniversary of the murder of my own mother, Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard. It was the first time I commemorate that solemn day outside the prison walls. This year, I remember the events of that early morning as a free woman. For each of the past 8 years, on every June 10th, I experienced my grief and guilt the same way with a wave of darkness hovering over me, a shadowy reminder that I would never again have a mother. I would try to connect with my mother wherever she is, hopefully in heaven. So you hope that she's in heaven. Even after she did everything that she did to you, you would hope she was in heaven. I don't know. If somebody had treated me the way she says her mom treated her, I think I would hope for that mother to be exactly where she belonged, in hell, right? Usually, with my head under the blanket, hiding from the world, I prayed. I spoke to her out loud. I squeezed my eyes tight and concentrated, hoping to make a connection just one more time so I could tell her how much I missed her and that I was sorry. Year after year, no matter how hard I tried, I never felt her presence in the way many people do after their loved ones pass away. This is not a passing away. This is not a woman who just died of old age or had a stroke or was in some sort of a car accident tragically. Like, you murdered your mother. But this June 10th is different. On this June 10th, I myself am a mother to be. and she's going to get her karma in that baby. You watch. I am pregnant. I have filed for divorce from Ryan Anderson, and I got back together with my first fiance, Ken. He moved to New Orleans for full time as we gear up to welcome our baby in January 2025. When the OBGYN's office called to schedule my first sonogram, where Ken and I could see our baby for the first time and hear the precious heartbeat, they suggested we do it on Monday, June 10th. Now, I know that I've been pregnant a few times, just a few. And every single time that I was offered the days to go in for a sonogram, it's not like they just say, oh, this is the day you have to come in and do it. They offer suggestions on appointment days and times that they have available, like lots of other businesses. When you're going in for a service like that, you're given options. Why would she choose to have her sonogram on the very day that her mother was schmurdered? Why? Why would you do this? Because you think it's going to somehow erase the memory of that negative thing that happened 10 years ago? It's not. It's not. It still happened. What you did 10 years ago still happened on that very same day. Regardless if you're getting good news on that day or not, yeah, she's sick. She's sick in the mind. She probably wanted it on that day as some kind of karmic retribution. You know what I mean? Because she's a fucking sadist. I do not think it's a coincidence. It's not, because you're a fucking sadist and a psychopath and a sociopath, all wrapped in one. You're the malignant narcissist who cannot stop being a victim because you are sick in the head. Whether it's a message, a sign, or the balance of the universe, or all three, what had been a date defined by scandal and horror and sadness beyond comprehension has now become a day of excitement, joy, and celebration of life itself. With one phone call and a calendar appointment, a day of darkness has been transformed into a day of light. The shadowy wave is no longer hovering over me. I am able to ride it. I believe God rights wrongs. I believe in balance. Regardless of everything that my mother and I went through with each other, what I did to her and what she did to me, I'm now carrying her grandchild. Later today, when I see my baby on the doctor's monitor, I will wish that my mom was here for this. Yet you took her life away. So why would you, if she was so horrible to you and treated you so badly, abused you beyond belief, why would you want to share this moment with that person? I can tell you right now that when I had my son and my daughter, after being abused my entire life by my mother, I never wanted to leave my mother alone with my kids. The only time that my kids ever saw my mother was when I was sitting right there with her, so that I knew she could not abuse them in the ways that she abused me. And when I went no contact with her, my kids were not going over there to visit, because I was not going to allow my mother to even get close to remotely hurting my children the way that she hurt me. So you're trying to tell me that after everything that your mom went through, this is a moment that you would want to share with her? That makes no sense. Like, literally 99.99% of everything that comes out of Gypsy Rose's mouth, it makes no sense. Maybe this means she is. June 10 no longer has to mark an ending, but a beginning. On future June 10th, I will continue to remember the sadness of my last moments with my mother, but now it will also be the day I experience the miracle of my first moments with my baby. I like to think that my mother is telling me that she wants me to move on with my life, that she forgives me, and what I will do on this anniversary is her way of helping me change the way I think of myself every June 10th. Maybe now, with my freedom, we can both be released from our purgatories. Maybe now she can be free too. She always said we were two sides of the same penny. Those words that used to haunt me, Gypsy will never be happy, she will never be free, have been once and for all put to rest. Nothing will ever erase the fact that I helped take a life, but at the same not helped, you took a life. It's because of you that a life was taken. You didn't help. You did take the life. It's your fault. Your fault. Not anybody else's. Actually, Nick helped you, but you took the life. You made the decision. You hired the hitman. You manipulated the hitman. You did it. You did it all. You bought the knives, you mailed the weapons, you paid for his tickets, you got the hotel room, you did it all. All he did, all he did was what you wanted him to do. But at the same time, nothing will mar my joy at the incredible good fortune that I am now helping give life. Balance is a beautiful force of nature. As I write this, I am about the halfway mark of my year of release from Chillicothe Correctional Center. Perfect timing to notice how balance in my life is regulating the chaos that once was. 6 months have gone by as quickly as the football season. And I can say with full confidence that despite what you may have seen or read about me, I've managed to hold on to the ball more than I fumbled it. In just 6 months, I've publicly gone from newlywed to divorcee, from Missourian to Louisianian, from brunette to blonde, from inmate to reality star. Girl, please. You are infamous. Infamous. You're not a reality star. From uneducated to published author twice. Y'all, in the past 6 months, I've also managed to make a lifetime of mistakes, be called a gazillion names, and sneak in some unnecessary smart decisions. I've misused social media, ain't that the truth? Given too much credence to critics and haters, and have done and said a lot of things I regret. I was free for the first time playing catch up with technology. There was nothing different about technology now than it is back then, except there's more of it. I mean, the same way that you get on Facebook and make a post is the same way that you get on TikTok and make a post. There's nothing different. You Google shit the exact same way you do in 2024 that you did in 2011. It's the same. I was free for the. Oh, hold on. She said, playing catch up with technology, current events, even lingo. So, like a fawn lifting herself up on wobbly legs, it took me a minute to find my footing. Initially, even though I was no longer behind prison walls of barbed wire, I still felt a sense of being trapped by my negative image because of what I'm notorious for. It's been a constant struggle to break free from the title that was put on me, especially while trying to balance who I really am in a world I have never lived in, not for one day. It took 6 months to discover I can't please everybody, so I stopped. It's much better to be myself than to try to conform to what anybody wants me to be. I feel like people keep trying to put me in a box, either victim or schmurderer. Bitch, you're putting yourself in the box of victim. Every single time you open your mouth, you put yourself in the box of a victim because you can't stand to be anything but a victim. Why not try to overcome some circumstances and stop being a victim? Just stop. Just stop being a victim. Just stop pretending that everything negative happens to you and start being something else. Jesus Christ. Like, it must be exhausting always portraying that, oh, woe is me. Wouldn't that be exhausting? Yes, we're almost done, Pearl. I think I've got like 10 more lines. But I'm not a hero. I'm not the villain either. I don't think that there is any. Yeah, there is a villain to the story, bitch. It's you. After you learn more of my mother's backstory and read about her childhood and the molestation and abuse that she endured, you see she didn't have much of a start in life either. Life isn't black and white. It's not victim or perpetrator. My mom was both. I am both. Balance makes us human. I choose to write this memoir because I wanted to provide some more background to the story you thought you already knew. I wanted to take my story out of the sole hands of Hollywood and tip the scale a bit more evenly with my personal lived experience. I also wrote it as part of my legacy, and now I will have two: my past story of being a daughter and my future story of being a mother. It will be a challenge to have different conversations with my child about what transpired before we became our own family, but shame is not a burden to me now. I know when time comes for questions, I will give my child truthful answers beginning with this book. There were only lies between my mother and me. Now I only have truth to give. To my unborn baby, when you are one day ready to read your mama's story and learn of your ancestry, I want you to know that every choice I have made in my life, whether it be wrong or right, has been with the hope of having you. That's probably the first true thing that she's ever said, because this woman has wanted to have a child worse than, I don't even know. I mean, I've never seen someone want to be pregnant so desperately in their life. Like, it's a little creepy to constantly be talked about having kids with this person, with that person. Like, it, yes, very desperate to have conversations with Dan about having kids, to have conversations with Nick about having kids, to Ken about having kids, then to Brian about having kids, then to Ryan about having kids, then to immediately get pregnant the very first time that her and Ken have sex. It screams that I'm trying to trap a man because I want to live out some weird fantasy of what a family should be when she has no idea of what a family truly is. Hey, Joni, she has a fantasy, a Disney persona of what family is, and that's not what family is. Like, family is toxic, family is negative, family can be dangerous, and it's all like fun and games right now because she's getting a lot of attention with the Lifetime show and everything else that's going on because it's so new. But trust and believe, when she's not on parole anymore and her family is not obligated to stand beside her, they're not going to. They're going to turn their back on her as quickly as they did whenever her mom moved them up to Missouri because they don't want to have anything to do with her. They're playing the role that they need to play for the purpose that they need to play this role for. Yes, end of the day, she is an adult, and adults are not sitting at their parents' house every single night eating dinner with them. Like, that's not the way having a family is. Whenever you have your own family, you're building a family for yourself. And Ken is going to leave. And then it's basically, thank you. Thank you, Joni. Ken is going to leave. And then it's basically going to be her on her own with this baby, unless Ken takes off with the baby, until somebody gets this baby away from her. And then she's going to be left all alone and nobody's going to want to have anything to do with her. The money is going to dry up. The attention is going to dry up, and her karma is going to, yeah, repeating history over and over again. And her karma is going to come quicker than we all think. It's just not coming fast enough. But as soon as she gets off of parole, things are really going to change in a lot of ways because her real personality is going to come out and we're going to see it. And it's going to be evident that everything that everyone thought about who Gypsy was a lie. Christy is all about the money and the attention. She never cared about Gypsy. The only time she started to care about Gypsy was when the attention came with it. That's what she cares about. Yes, Pat, Ken is definitely scared of her. Definitely. I think they all are. Yeah, this is supposed to be her legacy, having a baby. Like, don't you want I thought that she wanted to go on and like speak for victims everywhere and become an advocate, this, that, and the other. And if that were true, then why hasn't she done any of that? Why hasn't she spent any time trying to advocate for any victims anywhere? I know she made that one post about Amelia, and then that was literally it. Like, she didn't even try to do more. When it dries up, her family is going to be gone. Well, her family can't possibly not see the contradictions. And for me, if she was a part of my family and was living under my roof, I would be wanting to get as far away from her as possible. Money or not, she's the contradictions in itself prove that she's unstable and psychopathic. Like, she's a scary individual, and for her family, they should be concerned, because if she can lie so easily and about things that contradict other things that she said, it's like, how can you believe that she wouldn't do the same thing that she did to her mom to you? And yeah, they're all enablers, all of them. She has to live with family because of parole. But I haven't said this many times, but if you go back and look at some of the pictures, the newer pictures that Gypsy has taken with Ken that she's posted onto her page, those pictures are not in Rod's backyard. Her and Ken are renting a house together. Yeah. Her and Ken have been living with each other for months. They just have not told anybody and they've been keeping it quiet. That's probably another reason why she's not on social media as much, because now she's spending more and more time with Ken at this rented house, and we already know the background of the Blanchard home and all of those things, so we'd be able to spot differences in the backgrounds of her photos. But she's been living with Ken for months. Hold on. I think the first time I mentioned it was maybe September. So it's been since September. I think I mentioned it in September on a post. But once she's not on parole anymore, things are really going to get wild. I've mentioned it, yeah, Roma. I've mentioned it a couple times, and nobody believes me because I don't live down in the bayou. But you don't need to live down in the bayou to fucking know that she's absolutely controlling, and she's not going to want to be outside of his presence for very long because she's trying to keep tabs on him. Nobody's watching her like they think. And that's why she's taking a step back from the internet. So people can't see what it is that she's doing. And again, it's not like Parole is over knocking on the door to make sure that she's living there every single day. Parole is coming out there announced. They're calling and saying, hey, I'm coming out there on Thursday. Make sure you're there. You know what I mean? Like, they're not showing up unannounced as a surprise visit. And even if they did show up unannounced, all Christy or Rod have to do is be like, oh, well, she's out with Ken. She'll be back in a couple of hours. And then they can call Ken and be like, hey, you need to get Gypsy back home. So there's ways around, defeating the parole system, especially for somebody as manipulative as Gypsy Rose. Like, it's not surprising that she would try to beat the system in some way. I need to try to find my earbud case. I don't know what I did with it. Buffy, that could also be true. That he broke up with her, but y'all have to remember that the house that she's renting is probably more likely in Ken's name, but she's paying for it. So I'm sure if anyone left that home that they're sharing together, it was definitely Ken. Because Gypsy's the one paying for it, but because she has felonies on her record, most places, when you go to like apply for a place to rent, most places check your criminal history. And when they check your criminal history, they look to see if you've had a felony on your record within the last I think it's within the last 10 years. And if you've had a felony on your record within the last 10 years, especially like a crime like murder, they're not going to want you living in their home. So she can't necessarily be on the lease unless the owners are like a private renter and don't really care about the whole felon thing. Otherwise, it has to be somebody renting the place for her and her just living there, which means that she can't do anything to damage the place. Otherwise, it'll come back on the person who is renting the apartment for her. He can show that Lifetime is his source of income. Remember him saying on the Vile Files that shooting for Lifetime was like a full-time job? Whatever he got paid from Lifetime is his income. So all he has to, if he got paid $50,000, I don't know if that's what he got paid. I'm just throwing a number out. It could be more, it could be less. But if he got paid $50,000, all he has to do is show a renter, this is what I've been paid so far this year. And that number could increase depending on side gigs or wow, whatever. You know what I mean? It just depends. But all they need to see is proof of some sort of income. You don't necessarily have to have like um um what's it called? Pay stubs that show you're getting paid every 2 weeks or whatever. Yeah, Ken wasn't at the book signing. How did you find out, Christine, that he was getting paid 7,000 and she's getting paid 14? Yeah, Pat, you're right. The only events that we've seen them together at are the ones that Lifetime has done. What did I do with my, hold on, you guys, I'm coming right back. I'm not going far. I just need to try to find my earbud. That's so weird. Oh, duh. I had it sitting on the charger. I was like, I knew I brought them inside. It got up to 70 degrees here in Charlotte, so I turned the AC on and now I'm cold. I'm gonna have to turn it off in a minute. Yeah, I'm sure she was really upset that he didn't go. I don't, is that the is that, where did you get that information from? Oh, on Big Brother. Okay. Yeah, I can kind of see that. I don't know if they'd pay Gypsy that much. Big Brother is definitely a bigger TV show than Love After Lockup. Carolina Blue Skies, it was beautiful today. It was beautiful today. But I had my heat on and my son was at home, and it was like 75 degrees in the house because of the temperature outside and then having the heat on in the house. So he was so hot, and I came home and I noticed that it was 75 degrees in the house, and I never keep my house that warm. So I turned on the air to kind of cool it off, and now I'm freezing. Yeah, it's 70 here. I do not envy 30-degree weather. I could never do that. I honestly think it's too cold in Charlotte some days. Like, if I could live in Florida and have 80 temperature weather year round, that's what I'd like. Oh, yeah. I never really watched Big Brother, Christine, so I didn't know about them. Like, that's how you win the money. No, Buffy, she's never going to go out alone. She she feels like she needs like security. She's a murderer. Think about somebody who is as passionate about what she did to her mom, and then seeing her out in public, and then like screaming at her and calling her an unaliver and throwing eggs at her. Like, there could be some really interesting things that could happen to her if she went out in public alone. And I think that that's another reason why she wanted to have a child so badly, because I think she thinks that having this baby is going to somehow distance the haters from talking about her. But it's not. It's not. And then when they do talk about her, she's going to further victimize herself and be like, I can't believe you're saying all these things. What if my kid sees the videos that you're making? And it's like, bitch, you put yourself out there. Yes, give her a means to control people around her. Absolutely. She loves dangling the carrot. All right, you guys, I gotta go because I need to get in the shower. If you liked like having book club, we can take a poll on doing another book after this one. And if you want to read this book, we can also do like a book share, and I can send it to you in the mail and like share this book with other people who want to physically read the book themselves. Because I'm not able to return it. I was really disappointed that I wasn't able to return it, but because I got on the pre-order, that's why, because I basically ordered the book back in September, so it's outside of the return policy of 30 days. The author of this book is Melissa Moore and Michelle Mastrosani. Now, I know Michelle Mastrosani did a couple of other books. The Boy Called It, and we were talking about the very first night that I started reading this book, and a lot of people said that that was a really good book, and they didn't understand why that person who wrote that book would want to associate themselves with Gypsy. You guys, we got up to 30K likes. Ah, that's so cool. Yay. So I don't know why she would want to associate herself. Yes, The Boy It. So we can read that book next just to kind of see like what that book entailed, and then kind of compare that book to this book, because I've never read that book. He grew up in your neighborhood, JJ? That's crazy. And somebody also suggested that we read Melissa Moore's book about her dad, the Happy Face Killer or whatever it is. So we could also do that. I'll look up a few different books and we'll take a poll. But if you guys like the book club, I'm really enjoying it. I think it's interesting, and I really like hanging out with all of you. So I think that it would be fun to kind of keep this going in a different theme, just not talking about her, because I'm a little over hate supporting her. I was really mad at myself for buying this book, knowing that I couldn't return it, and that even my one purchase helps put money in her pocket, because I want to be the type of person who um makes a stand with my money. You know what I mean? Like I want to show that I'm not supportive by not giving her my money. Yes, book club. I'll do a poll on TikTok and a poll on YouTube, and then we'll commence in a little short live tomorrow and talk about it a little bit more. And if you think of any books that you are interested in or have heard of, go ahead and send it to me in a DM so that we can kind of take a tally on where to go next. I can't. Raina, because I pre-ordered the book in September, so it's outside of that return policy range. Thank you, Ashes. Y'all have a good night. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Sassy.